Monster Hunter Wilds is nearly upon us, and that means brand new hunters are going to be experiencing the Monster Hunter series for the very first time. Welcome to my Hunter's Guide series. This series is intended to aid new and returning hunters understand the many different aspects of Monster Hunter in a short, concise video format. In today's video, we will be covering an extremely important weapon mechanic, Sharpness. Sharpness is a melee-only weapon mechanic. Your weapon's sharpness level will be displayed with a gauge in the top left corner. As you use your weapon, the gauge will slowly deplete over time and change colors. Sharpness can be replenished by using a whetstone, which has infinite uses in your inventory. The rate at which you deplete your weapon depends on the type of weapon you're using, as some weapons have special rules. For example, the dual blade has a chance to reduce sharpness per hit. This is intended to balance the frequency of attacks dual blades have, so you don't just instantly deplete your sharpness gauge. But GooberTroy, why do we care about sharpness? Well, I'm glad you asked. Sharpness has two main components. The first is it acts as a damage modifier for your attacks. The sharper your weapon is, the more damage you do, and the more dull your weapon is, the less damage you do. In base versions of the recent games, white sharpness has been the maximum sharpness level. While your weapon has white sharpness, you will get a 32% damage increase to your weapon's raw attack power and a 15% damage increase to any elemental damage. These damage modifiers will slowly drop as your sharpness level changes colors. The levels of sharpness that actually begin to negatively impact your weapon's damage are in the orange and red zones, so you want to try avoiding these breakpoints as much as possible. The second component of sharpness is attack deflection. Some monsters have very tough hides and body parts. When you attack these tough body parts, your attack might get deflected, reducing the damage and locking you into this annoying recoiling animation. The sharper your weapon is, the less likely your attacks are to get deflected. The important thing to note about the weapon sharpness is the color, not necessarily how much gauge you have remaining. So what's changing with Monster Hunter Wilds? It's unclear how the damage modifiers have changed at this time, since we've only really had beta weapons to play around with. However, there are two changes to note so far. The first is a change in how sharpness is displayed. In previous games, each color of sharpness tier had its own gauge. For example, if you had a green level of sharpness, it would change to yellow only after the entire green sharpness bar has been depleted. From there, the yellow bar displays and it would slowly deplete and turn into orange. And this process continues so on and so forth. In Wilds, you have a single bar now that dynamically changes colors as the bar depletes. In addition, the gauge has a visual indicator for how dull your weapon is by showing little cracks in the gauge as the tier drops lower. The second change in Wilds is with how you recover sharpness. In previous games, you had a 4-cycle sharpening animation, which meant you had to stand still and use your whetstone to grind your weapon 4 times in a single animation before you successfully sharpen your weapon. This meant there was a lot of time for a monster to interrupt you and stop you mid-animation, resulting in no sharpness gained. In Wilds, every time you grind your weapon with that animation, you immediately gain some degree of sharpness back. This means sharpening is no longer all or nothing. Finally, to further emphasize the importance of weapon sharpness, there are a lot of skills that play into the sharpness mechanic. For example, speed sharpening has been a frequent skill in the series that reduces the sharpening animation. There are also skills that just flat out reduce how quickly you deplete your sharpness. Master's Touch is a skill that means you don't lose sharpness upon successful critical strikes, so skills like this just mean you don't have to sharpen nearly as frequently. These are just a couple of examples. There are at least 3 more skills that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm interested to see if we get any new sharpening skills introduced with Wilds. That's going to be it for this quick video though. If you're interested in joining a small community of hunters for the release of Wilds, consider joining my Discord. The link is in the description below. For more helpful Monster Hunter guides in the future, consider subscribing to the channel to stay notified when those videos go live. But this was GooberTroy saying thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.